The Trixie Treatment. Why Drabby Ditsy Drabby Do. Chapter 11. Losing Control. And then Twilight said she was impressed with Trixie's improvements in magic. Yeah, I ain't forgotten, Sugar Cube. And Rarity said she'd repair Trixie's hat and cape. Yup, that she did. And Fluttershy said that she knows where Trixie can get a rabbit for her show. You do remember that I was there, right? Trixie had been nattering happily all the way back to Sweet Apple Acres and continued to do so as the two ate supper together, her tail swishing merrily side to side and her cheeks stuffed to bursting with apple crumble. Trixie, can I ask you something? Said AJ, pushing her food around her plate. She had yet to take even one bite. The two had been out till late. Big Mac, Apple Bloom and Granny Smith had already eaten and set off to bed, so Trixie and Applejack were finally alone together. A single candle sat in between them on the table, casting long shadows onto the dining room floor. Himph, mumbled Trixie through a mouthful of food and nodded. AJ took a deep breath. Why are you still wearing the darn mustache? Trixie swallowed hard. After downing her food she uncomfortably fidgeted on her stool. Trixie likes the mustache. It gives her a certain je ne sais quoi. Applejack's Trixie translator weighed and spat out its estimation of an honest response. You can't get it off, can ya? Giggled AJ. I was wondering why you and Pinky were wearing them for the whole afternoon. It's glowed to Trixie's face. Wailed the blue unicorn. Your pink friend is like 20 different kinds of crazy. Applejack couldn't help but laugh. She'd been lost in a turmoil of emotions for the whole afternoon. Mulling over what she'd been told, what she planned to do, what she would say once the two of them were alone. She'd even had to scold herself for feeling jealous. As much as she had wanted Trixie to get some new friends and to make amends, she had also taken pleasure in keeping the magician to herself. Why the croons of your face and come here. We'll see what we can do. Have you tried pulling it off with magic? Trixie reluctantly put down her spoon and hopped off the stool. Using magic requires concentration, and when Trixie pulls at the mustache it hurts and then she can't concentrate anymore, said Trixie, offering her face to Applejack. AJ reached out and touched Trixie's cheek without thinking. The moment she did, however, her heart nearly leapt right out of her mouth. She felt herself draw a sharp breath. Dang it all. Get a hold of yourself, gal. She's wearing a goofy mustache, for goodness sake. What are you jetting all hot in the head for? Getting a grip on the thing with her hooves was proving difficult. As she scraped at it, her hoof touched Trixie's lip. Applejack barely suppressed a squeak. Applejack, are you okay? Your face is really red, said Trixie, her violet eyes locked with AJ's. Well. It seems awful hot in here all of a sudden. The farmhouse groaned and creaked suddenly as the frozen winter wind buffeted it from the outside. Applejack laughed nervously. Their faces were extremely close now. Her heart was pounding actually hard in her chest. She felt Trixie's breath tickling her nose. Mama, maybe if I use my teeth I could. I could get a better grip on it. Applejack's voice trembled. Her hooves were shaking. Sure. Give it a try, said Trixie, innocently. She leaned closer still. Applejack felt like she was about to explode. Her face was hot. Her ears were burning. A lump had formed in her throat that wouldn't go away no matter how many times she gulped. She squeezed her eyes shut in a desperate effort to calm herself. It didn't work. She leaned in as well. Her lips touched Trixie's cheek a mere inch from her lips. Applejack felt like she'd just kissed a lightning bolt. A jolt ran through her body. You ain't kissing her, dagnabbit. You're trying to get that darn thing off. Now just grip it with your teeth. Just do it. Before it gets too awkward. Applejack? Tell Trixie when you're going to pull on it. This is probably going to hurt. Her voice sent vibrations through her cheek and into AJ. She still smelled of pine needles despite having just helped herself to 2 servings of Apple family baked goods. It must just be her natural scent. Applejack took in a deep breath of it. As it rushed into her nostrils, she felt herself growing dizzy. Drunk on Trixie. Applejack? AJ lurched violently back into reality. She jerked away at last. Now that I think about it, we should probably just soak it in some warm water so it don't hurt too bad when we take it off. How about you take a nice warm bath first and then we'll see about taking it off. Trixie smiled with relief and took a few steps back. Maybe that would work better. Although the great and powerful Trixie could certainly handle the pain, that doesn't mean she wants to. Will you be joining Trixie in the tub? Applejack gasped and accidentally swallowed some of her own saliva. She coughed hard and stared at Trixie through watering eyes. What? She asked hoarsely. Your bathtub is like 3 times the size of the one in Trixie's caravan. There's easily room for 2, she grinned unabashedly. Yes. Say yes. Yes, 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 yes. No. You go first and I'll bath afterwards. That reply had taken a legendarily large amount of restraint. But the water might get cold. Trixie pouted. That's just fine. I could use a cold bath right now. She wasn't lying. If things got any hotter she might literally burst into flame. Trixie turned and began climbing the stairs to the 2nd-story bathroom when suddenly she paused. For the first time that evening she started to look legitimately embarrassed. She glanced over her shoulder as she spoke. Not that Trixie particularly minds either way, but you did say that we could share a bed. You were the one that said it, not Trixie, so. She seemed to be measuring how much she needed to obscure her own desires and needs. Trixie simply wouldn't want to disappoint you after you asked her. She's not worried about bad dreams or anything like that. Yeah, no problem. Trixie turned and trotted off, but AJ could tell she was smiling. Her tail wagging and her ears pricked up. This is gonna be tough. This is gonna be really tough. Applejack pressed her face against the cool of the dinner table. Maybe I could just ask. No. No, dang it. Rarity doesn't know what the heck she's talking about. I just gotta regain control of myself. It ain't love, it's just a dumb crush. And I ain't gonna let some stupid crush put an end to this friendship just as it's starting. But maybe a little bit of the cuddle would help me get these thoughts out of my head. Maybe. Chapter 12. Dreams and Nightmares. AJ was woken by the sound of shuffling sheets and sniffling. She lay for a moment in silence, trying to put together what she was listening to. It must have been just after midnight. What was that sound? The blankets shifted, the floorboards creaked and the door to the bedroom swung open. Applejack relaxed. Trixie was going to the bathroom. She waited to hear the magician make her way down the hall. The sound never came. Nothing but silence. Applejack lifted her head to see Trixie standing in the open doorway, stock still, staring into the darkness. Sugar Cube? Are you okay? Trixie flinched visibly. She didn't turn around. Sorry. Trixie didn't mean to wake you. She's just going to the toilet. Her voice was shaking. There was a long pause. Trixie remained motionless. You know the way, right? It's just down the hall, said Applejack, rolling over and sitting up in bed. Trixie still didn't turn to face her. Trixie has forgotten the way. Just down the hall. All the way to the end. Trixie turned her head and looked at AJ over her shoulder. Even in the gloom, Applejack could see that her cheeks were wet with tears. Trixie has forgotten the way to the bathroom. Maybe you could escort her? She asked pathetically, blinking back tears. Heck. Applejack hurriedly kicked off the blankets, leapt out of bed and trotted over to Trixie. Another bad dream? Sniff. Not afraid of the dark. Trixie's the most powerful unicorn. Sniff. In Equestria. She's not afraid of the dark. She just forgot the way. She looked fragile, more vulnerable than any other time the two had been together. Applejack knew full well what this situation demanded. Apple Bloom had gone through a period of nightmares and night terrors when she was younger, shortly after their parents had passed. What this pony needed right now was the light of the candle, some milk and a hug. Steps 1 and 2 would be easy. But physical intimacy with Trixie was something that put a strain on Applejack's heart. As much as she didn't want to feel like she was taking advantage of the frightened mare, her willpower was already taxed to breaking point as it was. She swallowed her reservations, picked up a match off the corner table and struck it. As she touched it to the wick of the candle and the flame caught, the room was illuminated in a soft orange glow. The trembling unicorn still stood in the doorway of the bedroom, making a futile effort to hide the fact that she had been crying. She had reclaimed her cape from the chair it had been left on and was using it as a kind of makeshift security blanket. She blew her nose messily on the slightly ragged wizard cloak. No, dang it. No. Applejack, you will keep her comfort in pure and platonic. You are not, I repeat, not to take advantage of her when she's like this. Trixie's glistening eyes met AJ's. Her nose was red and her lip wobbling. Come on. That just ain't playing fair. Applejack? Keep it together, now. Ah, who am I even kidding? AJ damn near knocked the wind clean out of Trixie. She flung her arms around the mare's slender shoulders and squeezed as hard as she could. Trixie was buried face first in Applejack's straw-colored mane. Too tight. Trixie was silenced by a tender kiss on her cheek. Now don't you be worrying your pretty little head. There ain't nothing to be scared of while I'm here with you. AJ couldn't help but nuzzle the helpless unicorn. Applejack? The earth pony in question was too lost in the moment. Smothering Trixie's cheek and ears with kisses, Applejack? Trixie's lips were defenseless. Did she dare? Applejack. Huh? What? AJ was still lost in the daze of the moment. Trixie really does need to go to the bathroom. A few minutes later the two had returned and were snugly tucked back in bed together. Applejack had been mentally kicking herself in the head during their brief midnight walk together for a momentary lapse. Usually she had so much more self-control than this. Suddenly, her hair stood on end as she felt Trixie's breath suddenly on the back of her neck. Applejack? Are you asleep? Trixie placed a hoof on the larger pony's side, tugging cautiously in an effort to get AJ to turn and face her. You're really playing with fire here, Sugar Cube, Applejack said nervously. Trixie did not seem to understand in the least. Are you angry, Trixie? No, that ain't exactly what I mean. I ain't mad at you at all. If anything, I'm mad at myself. What's worrying you? AJ took a deep breath and rolled over, finding herself nose to nose with Trixie. There's something that Trixie has been meaning to say to you. But whenever she tries she gets in her own way. Trixie knows that despite being great and powerful, she's not exactly an easy pony to get along with, but Applejack squeezed her eyes closed. Is this what I think it is? I kissed her on the face. Is she finally picking up on what I think about her? Please. Oh, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. Trixie thought that she could make up for the stupid things she did, but now she's even deeper in her debt. You didn't have to let Trixie into your home, or properly introduce her to your friends, or feed her, or comfort her. But you did. Trixie looked like she was on the brink of crying again, but she pressed on. Trixie was at the end of the line, stuck with nowhere to turn and sniff. Trixie said that she had lots of friends, but that was a lie. Trixie always lies. Sniff. Trixie wriggled closer and pressed her head against AJ's chest. The nightmares frightened Trixie. They're always the same. Whispers and voices. Saying cruel things. Telling Trixie to reclaim the amulet. Often her nose bleeds after she wakes up from the nightmares. Trixie is scared. Sometimes she hears the voices even when she's awake, she whispered. Listen to me, Sugar Cube. You're safe here with me, okay? I told you that already. Just stick close to me. Tomorrow we'll go see Twilight about this first thing in the morning. We'll sort this all out. I promise you I won't rest easy till you can as well. Just don't. Applejack slowly ran out of words. She planted a soft kiss on Trixie's forehead. As she got settled, Applejack started beating herself up inside her head once more. Fresh worries, new fears and reasons for hesitation. What in the hay is wrong with you? This gal has got real problems and here you were getting all gooey thinking she was gonna confess to you. I really got to get some help for her. I got to stop thinking all selfish like. But I'll be damned if she doesn't smell fantastic. No, console it. No. You're not allowed to breathe through her nostrils, you hear me? Her hair is so soft though. She's so small in my arms. Somehow I'll get the feeling I'm not gonna be able to get much sleep tonight. Chapter 13. The Root of the Problem. I can't believe I could have been so stupid. Twilight, try and calm down. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I was so caught up with impressing the princess and the Saddle Arabian delegates. Who was I to criticize Trixie for being a show-off? I'm just as bad. Twilight, how about you just take a deep breath and explain what's happening? How many weeks? How many weeks was this staring me in the face? I should have known that something like this would have happened. Twilight, every pony makes mistakes, just tell us what's going on. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Twilight. The town's librarian was pacing furious little circles around the wooden floors of the Golden Oaks Library, clearly too lost in thought to pick up on Applejack's frustration or even the look of worry on Trixie's. Of course the artifact could imprint itself on its host as long as it was parasitic in nature, and I should have known its nature the very second I learned that it could not be removed by any pony but the user herself. A symbiotic relationship. It must necessarily form a bond far beyond that of any mere tool in order to enhance the magical attributes of its wearer. The bond must have been forged through mutual sacrifice. But what kind of tribute did it demand? Something psychological perhaps. Certainly not a physical tribute. That wouldn't have allowed for it to deposit residual anchors. The amulet is... Twilight's motor mouth was going full speed and the farmer pony was only understanding one sentence in every 10. AJ cast an exasperated look at Spike. The young dragon nodded his understanding, hopped off his stool and plucked a book at random off one of the nearby shelves. He walked briskly across the room and shelved it on another bookshelf entirely. Twilight seemed to snap out of her frantic trance immediately, suddenly jolted back to reality. Spike, that book is about zebra traditions and cultural practices. Why are you shelving it with the cooking books? She said, apparently brought back down to earth by the perceived slight. Twilight. Can you just explain things in a way that any pony would understand? AJ was more than a little worried at this point. The two had come to the Purple Unicorn in hopes of finding answers regarding Trixie's bout of bad dreams, nosebleeds and memory loss in the wake of the Alicorn amulet. But the moment they had explained the situation, Twilight had lost herself in some lengthy verbal self-flagellation session, ranting about how she should have seen this all coming. What's happening here is referred to as third-tier artifact resonance in formal academia, although some ponies refer to it as Braudle's effect, named after Professor Pifford Braudle, who discovered it some 40 years ago. Symptoms may include... Twilight trailed off as she noticed the vacant, empty look in her audience's eyes. Right. Sorry. A way any pony could understand. Him. Applejack, do you remember when I came over to visit you last spring and you were busy weeding your orchards? Remember it like it was yesterday, said Applejack, relieved to finally be speaking the same language as Twilight. I tried to help you pluck out the weeds, but afterwards we had to go back and redo all that I'd done. Gee, Twilight, I hope that ain't still bothering you. It wasn't no big effort on my part, but with weeds you gotta really get deep into the earth. You can't just tear 'em out, 'cause if you leave any of the roots behind then they just grow back, said Applejack, still unsure why Twilight would bring up the seemingly irrelevant episode. Exactly. Twilight was visibly pleased that our metaphor had hit home. Well, magic can work in kind of the same way. We tricked Trixie into taking off the amulet, but we didn't get the roots out. So long as the remnants of the amulet's power remain, Trixie will continue to experience nightmares, headaches, bouts of nausea and any number of other possible symptoms. But how can it grow back? Trixie has not even come near the amulet since she got rid of it, said Trixie indignantly. The important part of a magic amulet is the magic, not the amulet. The artifact itself is only a physical representation of the compact signed between the tool and its wielder. If anything, the physical distance between you and the artifact has only served to worsen the withdrawal symptoms. Twilight noticed Spike irritably tapping his foot and caught herself before she launched into an extensive history of magical antiquity. What does Trixie need to do to stop having bad dreams? Trixie had difficulty talking about her problems, even with Applejack by her side. She had stood silently for the most part as AJ had explained her situation to Twilight. We have to send some pony inside to get out the roots, so to speak, Twilight said simply. Send some pony into the amulet? Asked Applejack. No. Into Trixie, replied the purple unicorn. Applejack face flushed as her mind filled with images best left unmentioned. Why what? What do I mean by that exactly? Unicorns draw their magic from their emotional states. In order to enhance her magical abilities, the alicorn amulet would have had to plant its roots there. Twilight had telekinetically dragged out an unassuming large chest that sat in the corner, opened it and began rummaging around in it. You mean sending some pony into the great and powerful Trixie's mind? Trixie sounded alarmed. Technically into your psyche, replied the town librarian cheerfully. This is going to require some difficult and technical magic and I will need your help with it, Applejack. My help? Twilight, I ain't much good with all that magical hullabaloo. How can I help you? She felt herself blush again. Go inside Trixie. Oh, no. To perform a mental insertion will require all of my focus. So I was hoping that he would be the one to take the journey. We need a pony with an honest and open heart to offset any possible chance of accidentally spreading or aggravating the problem. I can't think of a finer candidate. Twilight had removed a large dusty tome from the trunk and placed it next to some of the other strange objects she had already picked out. A jar of chalk pieces, a twisted ivory wand, an emerald pendant and crumpled reel of black silk thread. My heart might not be as pure as all that, stuttered Applejack. Her ears still burning. If anything, I'm beginning to wonder if that whole element of honesty thing isn't some kind of mistake. I've been acting a real fool these past couple of days and Are you sure there isn't some pony else or some other way Trixie wants Applejack. The two were silenced by Trixie's sudden outburst. Trixie doesn't want any pony but Applejack to do it. Trixie seemed as shocked to have heard herself speak out as anyone else. She quickly cast her eyes to the ground and pawed the library floor timidly. Trixie doesn't want just any pony barging around inside her head. Please. AJ melted like butter before those puppy dog eyes. Every time. So it's settled then? Twilight grinned, always eager for an opportunity to help some pony else and for a chance to test her magical prowess. Let's get started. Chapter 14. Ego. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. You need to try and relax. Open your mind. The three of them were seated in an expertly chalked circle. Any number of arcane and eldritch symbols had been scrawled around the circle's edge in various colors. Spike had helped clear a space in the middle of the library floor for the hocus pocus, as AJ had called it, while they were setting up. The ivory wand was hovering in front of Twilight, the emerald pendant wrapped around it, the two bound together with a length of black silk string. Trixie had already squeezed her eyes shut. She looked like a filly who had broken a vase and was waiting for her parents to come home and scold her. Applejack inhaled as deeply as she could and held it for a full 10 count. Now remember what Twilight told you. Gotta be kind, open and honest. Kind, open and honest. You didn't invite Trixie to live with you 'cause you wanted to put the moves on her. You did it 'cause you wanted to be friends. Gotta remember that. Find the remnant of the amulet and destroy it. And this is the inside of Trixie's head, so don't you go invading her private thoughts or nothing. She doesn't feel the same way about you as you do about her. You know that. And if you go looking, you're only gonna be disappointed. Gotta just be kind, open and honest. Dang, if this isn't taking a long time. I hope Twilight ain't bitten off more than she can chew with this whole mind spell thingamabob. Twilight? Is it working? Applejack opened her eyes just to peek. Then she opened them all the way. In all honesty, she could barely tell the difference. It was pitch black. The library had vanished and in its place was a soft, almost tangible darkness. Suddenly a blinding light cut through the darkness like a knife. Neon lights sparked to life and lit up an old-fashioned wooden stage, covered by dust-red curtains. AJ stared around in wonder. She was seated in an empty theater on torn leather seats. The front row aisle stretched to her left and right, every seat unoccupied. The sheer enormity of the theater only served to emphasize how crushingly empty it was. Applejack did not have long to stare around. Creaking old ropes leapt to life suddenly and the curtain was drawn aside. Standing on the stage, dressed in a magician's finery with her chest puffed out and her head tossed disdainfully to the side, was Trixie. Suspended above her was an enormous sign that said, "Ego," a single word written in flashing red and yellow neon light bulbs. "Behold," she cried haughtily, "the great and powerful Trixie. A magician so amazing that no pony dares even come to her shows. The most powerful unicorn in all Equestria. What in the world?" "Trixie?" asked Applejack, still feeling extremely confused. "Silence!" shrieked Trixie at the top of her lungs. You dare interrupt the great and powerful Trixie. You impudent, miserable worm of a creature. Despair your arrogance. Now hold on there. Something ain't right here." Applejack slowly rose out of her seat. "Trix, where are we?" "You did it again." Trix looked livid. Her face was contorted with an unspeakable fury, barely held in check. When she finally managed to regain enough control of herself to speak, her voice was dripping with venom. "Oh, I see. You've come here to insult me then. Just like all the others. Fine. But we'll see you as a laughingstock when I'm through with you. You disgusting little maggot." Applejack felt herself bristle with anger. This was the Trixie she'd expected to find in that caravan late at night during the storm. An arrogant, confrontational monster. A liar. A coward who made herself feel better belittling others. This wasn't her Trixie. "Get up on the stage then. If you think you are better than the great and powerful Trixie. Show me whatever talent you have and Trixie guarantees that she will match it. Exceed it. With no effort whatsoever. Trixie is the best at everything. That's why they all left. That's why they don't come to her shows. They're all jealous." She hadn't even finished her fresh line of attack by the time Applejack scrambled onto the stage. "Trixie, I know you ain't like this. You just get this way when you're feeling insecure and frightened. Oh, so you think you are better than Trixie? You pity her. Prove it then. Come on, Earth Pony. What's your so-called talent supposed to be anyway? Apples? Do you juggle them, or are you simply on the same intellectual level as them? Trixie was in her face, a leering wicked grin playing across her lips. Get me a length of rope then, and we'll have ourselves a showdown. If you think just 'cause you beat me once you can do it again, then you're wrong. I ain't no one-horse pony. I've got some new tricks that'll tie you in knots before you can say. Before you can. Applejack felt her competitive nature get suddenly overcome by something else entirely. This was wrong. This was all wrong. What happened to kind, open and honest? What do you really think you can accomplish by competing with her again? If she beats you, then you'll be stuck here. Twilight'll have to pull you out somehow, and Trixie will have another night of terrors in store for her. And if you beat her, you know what she's had to endure. How much more does she need to get kicked while she's trying to get back on her hooves? How many more times does she need to be humiliated? Is that really gonna make her change her ways? This is a lose-lose situation. I gotta think harder. We talked for hours yesterday and the day before. Was I just ogling her behind the whole time, or did I learn something about her? Think, Applejack. Think. The answer came to her suddenly. Trixie. I think you're swell. A stunned silence fell over the two. The sneer on Trixie's face slowly vanished. That's it. That's it. A big bragging aggressive mask isn't the sign of some pony who has an overinflated ego. It's the sign of a pony whose egg has been crushed again and again. Trixie tells herself she's great and powerful 'cause no pony else will. But what if? I watched you doing some magic to impress my sister yesterday, and I thought it was really great. You always tell the best stories too. I can really see you putting your heart into it, and it's just amazing. Applejack smiled warmly. Trixie stared blankly back at her. Suddenly the magician started to frantically splutter. You're lying. You don't really think that. You're just building Trixie up so you can knock her down. Yesterday I was telling Rarity how beautiful I think you are. Everything you do has this practiced elegance to it. I can't believe I was worried you'd have difficulty making a good impression on my friends. Of course you blew them away. You are so damn charming. Trixie's face was tomato red. AJ could almost see steam billowing out the top of her wizard hat. Her lips were moving but no words seemed to be coming out. Applejack heard a rustle from the audience. She glanced out and was stunned. The empty theater was filling up. Even through the glare of the stage lights she could hear the crowd murmuring as they found their seats. You're wonderful. Darn talented too. I don't know how I got through my days without you. Heck, even sharing you with my friends made me so jealous I thought I might explode. Applejack could feel the audience's anticipation. The hum of the crowd was rising. She knew what they wanted to hear. What Trixie needed to hear. Kind, open and honest. 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 I love you, Trixie. The crowd erupted in the deafening tumult of 100 hooves applauding. Cheers were raised. Flowers were tossed, raining down on the two of them. Trixie looked back at her with tears in her eyes. She said something, but Applejack couldn't hear it over the thunder of the audience. Then suddenly she was plunged into darkness once more. Darkness and deafening silence. Chapter 15. The Riddle of Trixie. Applejack trotted on through the darkness. She couldn't even see her own hooves, but she could feel that she was no longer walking along the wooden floors of the theater. If she had ever actually been there at all. Trixie? Her voice did not travel far. The blackness was as thick as butter. She walked onwards. There was a distant twinkle that grew larger as she drew closer. A stone archway lit by a soft light. Through its grim mouth AJ could see the room that lay beyond. A small courtyard, paved with unassuming cobblestones, surrounded by other archways, identical to the one Applejack was just about to walk through. Through each archway lay nothingness. 10 archways in total. She carefully stepped forward into the courtyard. Welcome. Welcome. Two familiar voices spoke in union. Applejack's head spun wildly. Trixie? She stared in disbelief. Trixie's. Two of them this time. Perfectly identical. Even their steps were in sync as they marched across the courtroom and turned to face her. 10 gateways, said the Trixie on the right. Only one will lead you to the heart, smiled the Trixie on the right, her mirror image smiling as well. The others will trap you here. Forever, they both said, together. The effect was eerie. Applejack could feel her hair standing on end. Trixie knows the right way, but remember this. When you ask us, only one of us will tell the truth. The other will lie. Applejack stared back at them. Hey, I think I've heard this one before. This is one of those stupid riddles that Twilight likes to tease me with. What the heck was the answer again? You gotta ask the one what the other would say and then wait. Then she paused in thought for a moment, racking her brain. She turned to the Trixie on the right. What's my name? Apple Jim, replied the Trixie cheerfully. Applejack, said the other when AJ glanced at her. So? You're the one who lies and you're the one who tells the truth. Then, Applejack turned to the Trixie on the left. Which way should I go? That way. Truthful Trixie pointed at the furthermost archway. Okie dokie, said Applejack as she marched confidently towards the correct archway. Usually she could never figure out riddles like this, and sometimes it still took her a while to understand them even after Twilight had explained the answer. Now, Applejack was no fool, but her mind was better suited to more practical problems. How to dig terraces to avoid erosion, how to position the orchards to reduce tillage and fertilizer requirements, how to balance costs. Still, she was surprised she had cleared the riddle this easily. She had something to boast to Twilight about when she got out of here. The deceptive Trixie seemed startled. Wait! Cried the liar. Trixie forgot. You're only supposed to be allowed one question. A silence descended on the mysterious courtyard. Yeah, said Applejack, I can see how that cooldown made things a lot harder. More silence, growing more awkward by the second. Redo. Trixie wants a redo, demanded the deceptive Trixie. Close your eyes. AJ reluctantly obliged the two. There followed a few frantic seconds of panicked shuffling and whispering, and then came the call. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Applejack obeyed. The scene seemed to be completely unchanged. The two Trixies stood staring back at her. Huh! Cried the Trixie on the left. We shuffled positions randomly. Now you don't know which of us is which. Now, ask your question. But this time you only get one question. Applejack stared back disbelievingly. She couldn't help but giggle. Trixie was terrible at this. I don't have to ask a question anymore. I already know the right way, she chuckled and pressed on. Besides, I reckon you're the liar. She winked at the Trixie on the left. You were more talkative than the other. Also, you're sweating and you've yet to make eye contact. I'd stay away from professional poker games if I was you. She smiled to herself as she walked away. The deceptive Trixie was looking more and more frustrated with each exchange. She leapt in between AJ and the exit. Then close your eyes and spin around and we'll do it again, she cried, already on the brink of tears. Nah, laughed AJ, for a pony who makes a living tricking folks you sure ain't much good at lying, Trixie. Trixie is a master of deception. The liar was fuming with indignation. Name one time you've managed to deceive me. Applejack didn't often tease other ponies, but Trixie was just too much fun. Trixie told you that if you picked the wrong archway you'd be trapped here forever, and you believed her, said Trixie triumphantly. Didn't believe it for a second. Twilight said she could pull me out any time. You believe Trixie's story about the Ursa Major when she first came to Ponyville? Not even a little. You believe Trixie when she said she wasn't scared late last night? Trixie was grasping at straws. "You're a real kitty," AJ chucked her lightly under the chin and walked on. "You think you can read Trixie like a book, but there's one secret that she's managed to keep from you," yelled the deceiver, thoroughly frazzled, "and you'll never guess it. Trixie did everything she could to hide it from you." This time AJ's curiosity was piqued. She turned to face the strange duo. "Well, what's the secret?" she asked. "I won't tell." The liar stuck out her tongue. "Good. 'Cause I wasn't asking you." Applejack turned her expectant eyes to the other Trixie. "Trixie is desperately in love with you," said the truth-teller. Applejack and the deceptive Trixie's jaws hit the floor.